in the corner. Stevens a three, and that's good.
You know, when we can get people going, it's in transition. And we couldn't do that because we couldn't get stops. You know, you can't get out of transition when you're consistently taking the ball to the net. You know, and for us, we felt like we had enough offensively, but we didn't get it done on the defensive end of the floor. So.
What were we doing in the first, second, and third quarter when it came to that defense, man?
What was the point of signing Chloe Bibby if you were going to not play her?
The Indiana Fever just got punched in the mouth. And here's the twist. It wasn't the team with the better record. It wasn't the team with Caitlin Clark. It was the Los Angeles Sparks, a team sitting outside the playoff picture, a team under 500, a team that has now beaten Indiana 3 times this season. That's not a fluke, that's a problem. This game was supposed to be another page in the Fever's redemption arc. 5 straight wins, momentum building, confidence rising, chemistry clicking. They were becoming the team that nobody wanted to face. But inside Crypto.com Arena, under the lights, in front of celebrities like Ashton Kutcher and Jaren Jackson Jr., Indiana was exposed. Let's rewind to August 5th, 2025, at Crypto.com Arena, where the Indiana Fever were riding high even without their brightest star. Caitlin Clark was still out with that nagging groin injury, but the team hadn't missed a beat. They'd strung together 5 straight wins, shattered records along the way, and looked every bit like a team on a mission. Confident, aggressive, and fearless. The Los Angeles Sparks, on the other hand, were a harder team to pin down. They'd been scrappy all season, flashes of brilliance followed by stretches of inconsistency. No one was calling them contenders, but they were tough and on certain nights, dangerous. And this was one of those nights. What most people overlooked heading into this matchup was the fact that the Sparks had already beaten the Fever twice this season. They weren't intimidated by Indiana's momentum or mystique. If anything, they saw an opportunity, not just to compete, but to make a statement. They stepped onto that court with one goal in mind: end the streak. The game opened with fireworks, and for a brief moment, it looked like Indiana was ready to make another statement. The Fever came out firing, scoring on their first 5 offensive possessions with ruthless efficiency. Every set was crisp, every cut purposeful. They moved the ball with confidence and punished every gap in the Sparks' early defense.
Natasha Howard. Howard back with the Fever this season and is able to take it coast to coast.
Kelsey Mitchell was the spark plug, living up to her veteran status with a scoring burst that seemed impossible to contain. She poured in 10 points within the first 10 minutes, hitting shots from deep, attacking the rim, controlling the tempo like a conductor with a baton. The Fever edged out the first quarter, 27-26, and though the margin was slim, the vibe was clear. Indiana looked composed. They looked locked in. They looked like a team that had won 5 straight for a reason. But then came the second quarter, and with it, a complete unraveling. Whatever momentum Indiana had built was snatched away in an instant. The Sparks didn't just respond, they imposed their will. It started with a couple of defensive stops, a few forced turnovers, and before anyone could blink, LA was off to the races. The pace shifted, the control shifted, the confidence shifted. The Sparks ignited a 28-16 run in the second frame, fueled by energy on both ends of the floor. Their defense tightened, their rotations sharpened, and suddenly they were the ones dictating the rhythm.
By Cunningham. Really a turnover there to get Cunningham the baseline. She takes it, swatted out of the sky there by Brink. Nice pocket pass, hand me there on the layup.
Indiana struggled to adjust. Their spacing collapsed. Their offense stalled. They couldn't get clean looks, couldn't secure rebounds, and worst of all, they couldn't string together defensive stops. Every Fever miss was quickly punished in transition. As coach Stephanie White put it after the game, with blunt honesty, you can't get out in transition when you're constantly taking the ball out of the net.
You know, when we can get people going, it's in transition, and we couldn't do that because we couldn't get stops. You know, you can't get out in transition when you're consistently taking the ball out of the net. You know, and for us, we felt like we had enough offensively, but we didn't get it done on the defensive end of the floor. So.
By the time the halftime buzzer sounded, the scoreboard read 54-43 in favor of the Sparks. On paper, it was still within reach, a manageable deficit with 2 full quarters left. But if you were watching closely, you could feel the shift. The energy Indiana had come in with was fading. The body language wasn't the same. The bench wasn't as loud. The game plan that once looked so airtight was now leaking from every angle. And the Sparks? They could smell blood. Let's dive into what really defined that third quarter. The Sparks came out of the halftime break with intensity that didn't waver for a second, extending their lead into double digits and refusing to let Indiana gain any traction. Their pressure was relentless, their execution crisp, and before long, the knockout blow was looming. As the fourth quarter began, the situation looked dire for Indiana.
Top of the key, Plum, catch and shoot three. How about that for an ATO?
With just over 7 minutes remaining on the clock, Los Angeles had surged ahead by 22 points, seemingly putting the game out of reach. Most teams in that position would start thinking about the next game. Rest the starters, accept the loss, regroup. But Indiana isn't most teams. Say what you will about their record or their inconsistencies, but one thing is undeniable: they don't back down. Instead of folding, they erupted with a furious 21-5 run that sliced LA's lead down to just 6 points with 2 minutes still to play.
Mitchell leaves it behind her. McDonald, deep three. She got it. Dagger!
Suddenly, the mood inside Crypto.com Arena shifted. What had felt like a sure victory turned into uneasy silence for the home crowd, while Fever fans watching from afar began to believe, maybe, just maybe, they were witnessing another improbable comeback. Kelsey Mitchell had completely taken control of the offense, putting pressure on LA's defense with every possession. Destany McDonald turned up the tempo, flying up the court and keeping the Sparks off balance. Aaliyah Boston dug deep in the paint, battling for every rebound, every putback, every inch of space. And then, just when the momentum was swinging Indiana's way, came the dagger. Azura Stevens, who hadn't missed a shot from beyond the arc all night, found herself open once again. She rose, released, and watched her fifth three-pointer of the game swish through the net.
In the corner, Stevens a three, and that's good!
Back to a 9-point lead. Just like that, the door slammed shut. There would be no miracle finish tonight, no dramatic late-game heroics, only the sting of another narrow escape slipping through Indiana's fingers, and the undeniable reality that once again, the Sparks had their number. This loss had nothing to do with a lack of effort, not from the starters at least. They came ready, showed up in full force, and put everything on the line. Kelsey Mitchell was electric, pouring in 34 points and dishing out 6 assists. In the process, she surpassed the 4,500-point milestone for her career and tied Tamika Catchings for the most 30-point games in franchise history. A monumental achievement by any measure. Aaliyah Boston continued to anchor the team with her steady presence in the paint, tallying 15 points and 9 rebounds, coming heartbreakingly close to securing her 7th consecutive double-double, which would have marked the longest such streak of her career. Natasha Howard, playing in her 250th career start, contributed 17 points and brought her usual veteran composure to the floor. Mary McDonald added 15 points of her own, backing it up with her signature grit, effort, and intensity on both ends of the court. The starters held their ground. They carried the load. They delivered. But the bench, the unit that usually brings a second wave of energy that averages nearly 25 points per game, simply vanished. 2 points. That was the entire bench production. Both of them came from Damiris Dantas. And that was it. This wasn't just a cold shooting night. This wasn't a slump. It was a complete and utter collapse of support. And against a team like the Sparks, that kind of drop-off is fatal. On the other side of the floor, Los Angeles was everything Indiana wasn't: balanced, aggressive, and ruthlessly efficient. Kelsey Plum orchestrated the offense masterfully, racking up 25 points alongside 11 assists. Rickea Jackson matched her with 25 points of her own, attacking relentlessly and finishing with authority. Azura Stevens, a flamethrower from deep, nailed all 5 of her 3-point attempts en route to 19 points. And Cameron Brink, coming off the bench, made her presence felt with 5 blocks in just 13 minutes, altering the tone of the game defensively. 4 Sparks starters scored at least 16 points. As a team, they shot a scorching 56% from the field and hit half of their attempts from beyond the arc. That's not just efficient. That's not just a good night. That's dominance, plain and simple.